Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow. It's Friday. Get ready for the weekend. And typically what I like to do towards the end of a week is I like to recap a little bit on what's going on in the Bitcoin world. And I like to do different analysis. I like to do Cardano analysis and Bitcoin. And when I say analysis, I don't necessarily mean technical analysis in the sense that, I'm trying to predict the price tomorrow. Okay. What I do is different things. And I like to use a variety of different tools, different indicators. I like to explore, right? You're going to see behind me right now is my current Jumpex trade. I'm up about $136. Jumpex is an exchange I've been working with, basically brought to you by the same guys that run Fairdesk. And my Fairdesk trade is doing really well. It's up about $2,500, and so I'm pretty happy about that. I've been in this trade and I've closed it out here and there. I mean, I've basically been playing the ups and downs a little bit, and I don't generally talk about a lot of that, right? Because I don't like people trading with me necessarily, because I get it wrong sometimes, and then I get emotional, and then I do random stuff, and I generally always bring my account back up, but it's just like I don't want anybody to lose anything while I'm experimenting, because I don't study this day in and day out. I kind of go with the trade and sit with it. But Jumpex has already added Cardano, and they're really trying to they wanted my help to start helping promote the exchange, because if you go to cryptocrow.io, if you're a project leader or something like that, you can reach out to me and I can help you, because they're looking for Cardano ecosystem listings. It's not cheap, but you can inscribe market maker servicing and things like that to kind of help make sure that you're building a market. You're not just throwing your tokens on the exchange and whatever happens. You can make the market, which is pretty much what a lot of major projects do. But anyway, that's just something to think about. So here's what we're going to look at. So this is Bitcoin's price right now, and we've been trending back up a little bit. We're currently trading at just under $66,000. So very good. What you're going to see, though, also is the green and orange lines of the pi cycle top indicator. Now, when I look at the price, and this is something that has been puzzling me so hard. If you've been following me for years, and you're on my Twitter, you'll know that, and this isn't a toot my own horn thing. I'm saying this for a reason, but some of you will remember when I called the peak of the market in 2021. It was like April 13th or whatever, 2021. It was basically this first peak, because I saw how the pi cycle top had just crossed over. As I tell the story a million times, I was getting on a plane and I saw that it had crossed over, and all I could do is tweet it out. I couldn't take action. I couldn't get out. I couldn't do anything with it. But through further analysis, later that afternoon, I noticed that this was likely going to be a 2-peak cycle. And at the time, everybody thought I was nuts. Nobody understood what I was talking about or why. But I had discovered how this charting matched up almost identically to the 2007 NASDAQ markets. And, all of it. I mean, the whole thing is almost like one big Wyckoff pattern. And I said, it was probably 4.5, 5 hours later. I said, the price peaked, but don't worry, this is likely going to be the first of 2 peaks. I could be wrong. It's what I said on Twitter. Everybody slammed me, man. I mean, I took a beating, but I call it as I see it. I'm always right sometimes. That's what I always say. But I do study this stuff often. And I've been trying to figure out, why were there 2 peaks in this cycle? And one of my big things is that this was an expedition, and I don't know what the right word I'm looking for, but basically this was a lot of institutional money playing with Bitcoin. That's what I believe. And I believe that a lot of the institutions were trading the Bitcoin as they were any other asset through this Wyckoff accumulation, distribution, reaccumulation, all of that stuff was playing out. And I recognized that through the NASDAQ charts. And so when I called this, I thought, okay, this is what's happening, but I was still unsure. I say a lot of things. I'm never 100%, but I felt pretty strongly about that. So I put it on Twitter, against the grain. Because of course, when we're in these big moments of FOMO, everybody wants the price to go to the moon and never stop. And unfortunately, I had to be the bearer of bad news for people. And then if you go back to those tweets now, you can see all of those who support me say, how do you feel about this now? A lot of people are trolling the trolls. Okay. So anyway, what am I getting at? I've been trying to figure out how this plays a role between the 2017 market, the 2021 market, and where we're at now. And I decided I would go to Claude, because I've learned that Claude can be really useful for a lot of cool stuff, especially seeing things that we may not otherwise see. And so I loaded up this chart. I loaded up a bear chart, long-term. This is a weekly chart, okay? Long-term logarithmic weekly chart. And I said, based on the tops, bottoms, and time frames between the price of Bitcoin on this chart, tell me what the most likely date is for the price to peak and what price point. Now, basically what it says is everything we already know, all right? Given those observations and assuming the pattern continues, the next major peak could potentially occur around late 2025 or early 2026. This would align with the approximately 4-year cycle observed in the past. And then it shows the prices of the peaks all the way up to 2021. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. That's general consensus right now. That's what a lot of people are expecting, although not late 2025, early 2026. My most recent was basically showing let's see here, November of 2025 peak. Okay. So given that, when one of the major indicators that are explaining when a peak of a cycle is, which is the pi cycle top, I thought to myself, how will the peak of 2025, most likely, how will that play out in terms of the pi cycle indicator? And so I looked further and I was asking more questions, and I asked it, what is the pi cycle top indicator and how does it work? Because I wanted to make sure it understood, and it gave me this breakdown. The pi cycle top indicator is a technical analysis tool used in cryptocurrency markets, particularly for Bitcoin. It's designed to help predict potential market cycle tops. Here's an overview of how it works. Components. The indicator consists of two moving averages of Bitcoin's price, a 111-day simple moving average, or SMA, against a 350-day moving simple moving average multiplied by 2. Okay. The signal, the indicator suggests a potential market top when the 111-day SMA crosses above the 350 multiplied by 2. Historical accuracy, basically so far to date, all the way up into the 2021 market. But remember, the first peak of the market and the first crossover of the pi cycle was on April 2021. The first day, the day I called the peak before a second peak that was just a little bit higher than the last, and was ultimately where the altcoin market really shined. Okay, it was kind of in between there, really. It's not foolproof, can produce false signals, yada, yada. So then I thought to myself, okay, what could cause this crossover to happen sooner than projected? And so I asked it. I said, in the chart, you can see the pi cycle top indicator and its crossovers. Based on historical crossovers and current momentum, when will the next crossover be? Now, it tells me the history and all of that, which is fine. But it's basically saying that, the timing previous crossovers has been approximately every 3 to 4 years. It's been about every 4 years. Given these observations and assuming the pattern holds, the next crossover of the pi cycle top indicator could potentially occur in late 2024 or early 2025. Now, This is why I do a lot of different things as I'm trying to discover and figure out what is most likely to happen in the future based off history, but based off of also what is happening now and how will these different things change. And it basically says that. And so I'm trying to figure out now what could cause this to happen sooner. What market conditions could cause the pi cycle top indicator to cross over sooner? Several market conditions could potentially cause the pi cycle top indicator to cross over sooner than expected. Rapid price acceleration, obviously. A sudden dramatic increase in Bitcoin's price could cause the shorter term moving average to rise rapidly, potentially crossing the longer term average earlier than expected. Extreme bullish sentiment, obviously. This was the big one for me. Major institutional adoption. Significant investments from large institutions or corporations entering the market could cause a sharp price increase, which we obviously saw back in March, where Bitcoin rose up to a new all-time high before the halving. Regulatory changes. Positive regulatory developments such as the approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF could trigger a surge in demand and price. This already happened. Macroeconomic factors, another big one for right now. Global economic instability, inflation concerns, or currency devaluation could increase Bitcoin's appeal as a store of value, potentially accelerating its price growth. This is all happening right now as we speak. Technological breakthroughs, significant improvements in Bitcoin's technology or its ecosystem. We're seeing recently how you can basically start using Cardano with Bitcoin, and there's like more interoperability that's brewing to help support Bitcoin on other networks. Geopolitical events, major world events that highlight Bitcoin's potential benefits could drive rapid adoption and price increases. Supply shock, events that significantly reduce available supply. Media hype, altcoin market dynamics. A major shift of capital from altcoins into Bitcoin could cause a swift price increase, which we see that fluctuation go back and forth. So basically what this is saying in a nutshell is that everything happening in the world right now is likely going to drive the price of Bitcoin up further. So the question here is, how much stake do we put in the pi cycle top indicator for the current market cycle? Because we have so many different things that are happening now that while they've always been at question in previous markets, it was originally the actual reason for Bitcoin's inception back in 2009 to begin with, if you remember. And so now we're seeing the combination of all of these things on a global level, as well as the institutional adoption with BlackRock and other inflows. But here's another thing that I want people to think about. Not only do I believe that this market cycle is going to be unlike any other, I also believe that it's going to be almost like, I believe that the top is likely going to be far beyond $150,000 at the peak of the cycle. I do believe that we're likely going to get a pi cycle top crossover before the actual peak of the market. We saw this kind of happen here in the 2021 market. We got the crossover in this first peak. We came down, I think, because of sentiment, believing the market is over, but it wasn't. And what I would ultimately love to have seen, in the 2017 cycle, we just got a straight up rally. But this was broken down into two, I think, because the institutions were already starting to enter the field of play, ultimately tapering this down, taming the price and volatility of Bitcoin, that rather than it become one big parabolic run to a much higher price point, it was broken up into two. This time, I believe that we're likely going to see a pi cycle crossover earlier in the market cycle, could even happen by the end of this year. And then that market peak will actually happen in some point in 2025. But here's the thing. This is something that I'm also considering. if we look at a lot of like the macroeconomics and what's going on, the recession ideas that people are putting out there, the idea that BlackRock is buying up all of this Bitcoin and continuing to do so, the inflows into Bitcoin overall, the sentiment behind CBDCs and what's kind of brewing in like, I don't know, 40, 50 different countries out there that have already begun launching them or are in different phases of doing that. I'm going to throw out a tinfoil hat conspiracy for those of you still listening 15 minutes in, and I really want your comments below because I want this to make you think. If we were to get pushed into CBDCs, what would be one of the easiest ways to get people to adopt it? One of them is welfare. Obviously, if you want welfare support from the government, you're basically going to get it through the utilization of a CBDC token. They're going to be able to see everything that you're buying, make sure that you're buying only the foods they allow you to. You're not blowing it on, random things that you don't need. You're not going to go out and spend your welfare money on, like getting your hair did or your nails done or your new rims on the car, or basically just things that are luxury items, right? It's basically there. It's meant to help you live. Now, in addition to that, I believe that we're going to see, I think that there's a chance that a lot of these ETFs get locked up, in the sense that I can see the money put into these Bitcoin ETFs at some point could potentially, the market could be elongated based on a particular time frame, manipulated to a degree, maybe, I don't know. But I can see all the money that's going into the Bitcoin spot ETFs being liquidated into CBDCs at the behest of the government. It's totally conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat thinking outside the box. But everybody basically repaid their value in Bitcoin at the peak of the market that is controlled to some degree, and basically paid out in CBDCs, and everybody will have considered it a favor because it happened during a market peak they weren't ready for, didn't know was coming. As just one element of how a big chunk of this money will go into the space. And the other side to that is that it will be the government that then holds that Bitcoin no longer in the ETFs, because that is how they're going to transition out of USD per se into CBDCs and basically start building a store of reserves in Bitcoin. I don't know. Let me know what you think, but this is the kind of stuff I think about all the time. I'm always right sometimes. I could be so far out of reach with this theory of mine, this crazy theory, but that's all it is. It's just me thinking outside of the box, is that if I were a government, how would I want to bring something into the community in a way that they're not only grateful for at the time, but, that I would actually have the power to do. Without it basically being blatantly invasive, right? Like, and that's one of the ways I can see them doing it, especially given the macroeconomic situation that we're in that continues to get worse and worse. And I know that the left sounds like they're adamantly against crypto, and maybe they really are, but I don't necessarily think that they're against crypto. I think that they're more against the utilization of crypto for private interests. And I think that that's going to continue getting more regulated to some degree. I mean, ultimately, a lot of this does depend on who's in the seat, who's in the driver's seat at the time, and how a lot of this stuff is potentially going to play out. But I think that this market cycle is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen. And it could ultimately, none of that could be true. And we could just see a basically, we could see a 10-year market cycle from here as USD considers or continuously gets funneled into Bitcoin and other assets in the blockchain space based off of whatever main plans there are, whatever agenda there may be. Because listen, if you look at like my AI audio files and you listen to some of those reports that I've turned into conversational podcasts, there's a link down below. I'm seeing the subscribers going up, which is cool. It's actually motivating me to start making more of them, because I'm like, if nobody listens to them, I'm not going to put in all the work of creating them. But I have like 300 documents that I want to turn into these conversational AI podcasts that are really, really fun to listen to. I'm not kidding. They're actually very pleasant to listen to. But I think that a lot of the agendas associated with groups like the World Economic Forum and all of the others, it's all about this sense of like inclusion, transhumanism, and basically taking the human state into a place where we live longer, we achieve more, we do more, but we don't need as many of us, which sounds really scary. But that's kind of what I'm seeing at every turn. And I'm like, now that we have AI, and AI is continuing to grow and expand itself to like almost scary places so quickly, I do believe that we're getting to a point where everything is going to be digital. Everything is going to be monitored and somehow regulated through the use of artificial intelligence. And I think the cryptocurrency market is going to get really elevated to a large degree because of it. So I'm going to leave it there, 20 minutes in. I don't want to go on forever. It's Friday, but I was just giving you food for thought for the weekend and just kind of let you know this is the kind of stuff I think about during the day. I could absolutely be wrong, but let me know in the comments. I'll be reading them all through the weekend. And until next time, crow your coins, and I'll see you soon.